Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for that introduction. As I said earlier, this is a new venue for me, speaking just to my computer without having all of you here, but I'll do my best. I just want to tell you a little bit more about myself. As Joyce said, I do have a background of 27 years in public education, and all of that was with students with disabilities. 22 years of that was actually hands-on, boots on the ground teaching. In those 22 years, I taught everything from 3 years old up to 12th grade students. When I got my degree in special education, I got my first degree from Auburn University. And in those days, in the 90s, you were able to get certified from birth to age 21. And so that's what my original certification was. So I could teach anybody. And that's what I've done. I've taught all disability levels, all disability areas, and I've taught from the mildest to the most severe. So there's probably some things I haven't seen, but there aren't many. If you've seen it, I've probably seen it. If you've done it, I've probably done it. The last 5 years I did spend supporting teachers and paraprofessionals as the special ed director. I did absolutely love that position because I love supporting teachers. And I feel like that is what I'm supposed to be doing now, which is why I'm at LaGrange College. Now I'm working, helping those who desire to become teachers. And I'm supervising interns and going into schools and helping them. And I just love to be able to pour into teachers. But I also want to continue to do things like this. And when Education Associates reached out to me, I jumped on the opportunity to be a part of this today because I never want to lose my connection to working and supporting students who have disabilities and the adults who give of their lives to work with those people. As they mentioned, I am on the board of directors for the Adult Day Center in in Roanoke, Alabama. I have been on that board of directors, oh my goodness, probably 26 years, and I've been the president for probably 22 or 23 of those years. And I've raised my children at that day center in the summer volunteering. I have just been a part of that. And I have loved being a part of seeing where our students start out as 3-year-olds coming to get services. They leave their early intervention agency and they come to our school system and get their services. And we would work, and we're starting out teaching some of them how to speak, how to eat, how to feed themselves, how to go to the restroom on their own, how to walk. And then also years and years would go by, and there's even now adults at that day center that I knew as children at the elementary school. And I love that I have been a part of that continuum of their lives. What that's also done for me is given me that front row seat into seeing the great need for more. We have come a long way. We have come a long way in special education, but we need more. And we have so much more we can do. So much more we can do. When I started in special education, we were completely self-contained in Roanoke City schools. In the elementary school, when I first took that position, I think it was my 3rd year in the school system, I was put in a classroom, and except for the very mild students who had specific learning disabilities who could read, everybody else that had a disability was in my classroom. Kindergarten through 3rd grade, all ages, all grade levels, everybody in one room. You can imagine that I did not get a lot of teaching done. I got a lot of managing done, and I did my best. But the school system that I was in, maybe some of you can relate to this, it is a Title I school system. Our students come from high poverty areas. The majority of my students through the years come from single parent homes. And many, if not most of them, are being raised by a grandparent, an aunt, someone who is not their mother or their father. So it is a difficult situation. Oftentimes, they are also being raised by someone who themselves have had difficulties with learning in the past. That causes a whole nother set of challenges. So if you represent a school system where you have the, people who come from very high income families and the parents are very well educated and they have a child who's had every advantage in the world for them, those aren't really the experiences I've had. But if you come from a system where you can say, we've had, very little funding, very little money, we come from a city with very little opportunity, what do we do for our kids? That's where I can talk to you, because that's the kind of experience that I've had in education. And I believe that we have done a lot for kids there. In 1999, I helped implement the inclusion model in Roanoke City Schools, and we never looked back. We went full inclusion. We went from self-contained to full inclusion at the elementary level, at all levels and stages, but I was at the elementary school when we did that, and we just never looked back. And we have seen a lot of good come through those years. So how do I say, I'm saying all that and you're like, okay, I thought this was about project-based learning, but you see that what I said, the title was Reignite the Passion in Your Students with Project-Based Learning. So here's what I found when I took over as the director, because I had been kind of isolated in the lower grade levels. And then I became the director for the school system. And what I realized was at the lower grade levels, there's so much more opportunity for full inclusion for our students with those more diverse, severe needs. We can put them in the gen ed class and we can meet their needs and we can differentiate instruction and we can meet their learning needs and their physical needs and their behavioral needs. And we can have them mixed in with all of their non-disabled peers. And for the most part, now there are those outliers that we all know about those. Probably some students' name just came to your mind. One or two came to mind as well. But other than those, we can do that and it just works. And it's great. And it's why we do inclusion. But the older those kids get, the more the things they need can't be done as well in that gen ed classroom. And so you do begin, that need grows for them to be moved to a classroom where it's more set up for what they need. And I don't want to call it a self-contained classroom, even though I know that is kind of what it is, because of course we still want to have them involved with their non-disabled peers as much as we possibly can. And when I hear self-contained, I still think of when I started teaching, when those babies went to PE separately, lunch separately, they did everything separately. That's a self-contained I never want to see us return to. So I'm talking about where they go for those classes, those class periods where they're taught those alternate standards, working towards those alternate assessments, that how they'll be assessed differently from their non-disabled peers. And so as they begin to need that as they get older, what I saw, they kind of don't love school as much. And in some cases, you kind of start to see maybe not as much creativity is being done for them. And that's not the case everywhere. And that's not always the case. I mean, you will have situations where it's just great experiences, but then you'll have those where it's not. And so we had not had that situation in a long time, because for a long time, we in Roanoke had not had a large population of students who needed that self-contained classroom. But we had this group of students that we had this one year where we got this large group of 3-year-olds started getting services, and they all had much more severe disabilities. So as that group moved up through the school system, by the time they got up into the upper grades at middle school, suddenly we did have this need. And about the time they hit those upper grades, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, around where they were falling, that's when I became the director of special education. And I had known these babies since they were 3 years old. So that's kind of how this whole project-based learning thing started for us. It wasn't that we had these students and we weren't doing anything for them. We had really not had this group of students for years for some reason in our area, and we are a very small area. But suddenly we had them, and they just weren't enjoying school like they used to. And we had to come up with something to make them love school. So what did we do? Well, I'll tell you what we started with. And this is before I had ever heard of Education Associates. The first thing we did, I'm going to skip that. This is our agenda. I'm sorry, I didn't even go to my agenda. First thing we're going to talk about is a student enterprise. We started a student enterprise. And you can obviously tell that it was a coffee station. And the name of it is the Tiger Bean. We decided on coffee because it was something we could do. Now, I know a lot of you probably have student enterprises. You probably have maybe coffee stations or coffee cafes, or maybe you have something else. You probably have ideas that I haven't even thought of. I can only speak to you of what we have and how we did that. What I can also speak to you about is how you can start a student enterprise if you have nothing. Because we literally started this student enterprise with nothing. The first thing we did was get our teachers excited. I met with my teachers at the beginning of that school year, and I gave them my idea and told them how we were going to set this up, and they were so excited. And we started with a name, and we came up with the Tiger Bean because our school systems, they're the Hanley Tigers. It's the name of the school is Hanley, and that's their mascot are the Tigers. So we came up with the Tiger Bean, and we got someone, a graphic design artist who happened to work for our school system, but she was also a graphic design artist, to make a logo for us. So it would be our logo. And so that's the logo she came up with. And if you look at the picture of the little girls in the middle of the slide, that's two of our little girls that were in our very first group. And you can see that they have aprons on. But I want you to direct your attention to the first picture on the left right there. The next thing we did, because I told you we started with nothing, we found an old science cart in the school, and we happened to have a coach who was one of our parapros that year, and he got busy and he refurbished that science cart for us. And this was probably 5 or 6 years ago. And to this day, that is still the coffee cart they push. And we started asking for donations. You see in the middle, the Keurigs lined up. Those were all donated to us. We started out with donations of cups and creamer and sugar packets and Splenda packets, all from fast food restaurants. We wrote letters, we called, we did everything we could to get donations because we started with nothing. I had a little bit of funding left that we had not spent from our IDEA funds, and I was able to spend that just to kind of get the class, get them going with a few supplies they had to have, but for the most part, we had to have everything donated. And it was a lot of startup work, but it made such a difference in our kids' excitement about coming to school. Now, did they do this every day? No, they didn't. They did it on Fridays. But it got them excited about coming to school again. They worked all week towards Friday. That project became intertwined into everything they did. When they did math during the week, they built it around that coffee cart. When they did reading during the week, they built it around that coffee cart. Every academic skill they did, they focused it on that coffee cart. When they did behavior training with a young man with severe autism who literally would not follow a one-step direction, he would not comply with directions, but you know what he wanted? He wanted to push that cart. So his behavior goal became that he could push the cart if he would stop when they said stop. And they would go up and down the hall practicing stop, and he would stop, and then he would get a reward. Their behavior goals started centering around that cart. They developed collaborative learning groups with the gifted program. And the students in the gifted program came in and worked with these students because at the very beginning, they needed a lot of support with learning how to work the machines and knowing how to read the orders and all of that. They don't require all of that anymore. They run this show all by themselves. But in the beginning, they required a lot of support. Please excuse my scratchy voice and all of this, but it's Alabama starting to change seasons and things blooming, and it's got me all messed up. So that's how we got started with that. And the value in that was it got our students excited. We started taking field trips and just doing all kinds of things. And I want to come back to that, but I'm going to go on, but I want to come back and kind of tell you some ways that we've pulled that student enterprise in to continue to support their learning. But I'm going to do it later as we go on to talk about some more things. Okay, so I want to talk now about hands-on career exploration. This is where, for me, we had our coffee cart going, and that's great. But we still did not have curriculum. I mean, my teachers were killing themselves with the alternate achievement standards, trying to come up with something to teach their students. And then I met Gary Bates, and he told me about Project Discovery. And I got busy searching because, I told you we didn't have any money, but I wrote a grant and thankfully was awarded that grant and able to buy my first set of Project Discovery and get the training for my teachers and get some of those amazing kits in their hands. And it was just such a huge discovery for me and for my school system. The different curriculum areas that the students are exposed to in the classroom, it helps them start to think about what kind of job they might want to do. And right there in that classroom, in that one box, opens up a whole world to these kids. And again, if you're from a large area, but the thing is, even if you're from a large area, because yesterday I was in a large area in Georgia with teachers who have, if you heard them talk about how little opportunity they have for their students outside of the classroom, you would have thought they were from a very small place. But I'm looking at everything where they live and I'm thinking, why do they not have all these opportunities? Because people just maybe aren't willing to work with them. I'm not sure. But that's the thing. Either way, inside this plastic bin is a whole new world for your students. And that's what we got when we purchased this. And I'm not a salesperson for Project Discovery. I'm just telling you that the way I brought project-based learning into our classrooms for our students was through Project Discovery. I'm not a salesman for them, but I'll be the first one to tell you, if you don't have a curriculum, even if you have a curriculum, you need some project-based learning in your classrooms, and you need to consider Project Discovery, because I just think it's unmatched by any other product out there. So we put that in place. And what I love is that it's appropriate for our students from the lowest to the highest. They all benefit from it. And the performance benchmarks, they help us gather our data. And by the time our students are ready to leave us, we know what they're good at. We know what we can tell an employer. We've got transition coaches on here. That data collection, we can take them hard data and say, this is what this child can do for you. This is what they're good at, and this is what they will be able to do. And this is what they're going to need some support doing. So we start exploring inside the classroom. Okay. We start in our Project Discovery boxes. We start exploring all of those different modules. But then don't limit your kids inside your classroom. You got to get outside of that classroom. You got to get them out of your classroom and see what opportunities are outside of that classroom, and start where you are. Okay, maybe you don't have a bus. Maybe you don't have a bus driver. Maybe you don't have any money to take them anywhere. That's okay. Look inside your school. Just think outside of the box. What can you do in your school? Just look at the pictures that I have here, and let me tell you what we've got going on here. Let's start on the picture on the right. Right here, you've got some kids, some of our students. Well, on the far left in the red shirt, that's a parapro. The other are students. You know what they're doing? They are bagging up to-go breakfast, because after the COVID shutdown, and when we returned to school, in an effort to try to minimize how many students would be in the cafeteria in the mornings, the cafeteria workers started bagging breakfast and doing it as a pick up and go, and the students would eat in their homerooms. Well, that was a job that our students could take on, and they could get some work practice. They clock in, they report to a supervisor, they practice those work skills. They get all this work experience, but at the same time, they're exploring other career opportunities inside the cafeteria, like the things that the cafeteria worker does. You see the boys, and I can't tell if I think that's one of our parapros in the front leading the way, moving the boxes. They are helping move stock. They help take inventory of stock. When it's time for the manager to turn in her inventory, she'll get some of our students to come help her take inventory, because they're used to her system. They're used to how she keeps things and where she keeps things. On the left, you'll see one of our students and a parapro practicing using the self-checkout at Walmart. We do have a small Walmart in the area where we live. And what I told you, that one of the things we do with the coffee cart is we go on field trips. And what we do is, not every week, but maybe once a month, they'll take a field trip to Walmart to stock up on supplies now. And the students go and they take a visual shopping list, and they have to locate. We build as many skills as we can into that one trip. But one of the many skills is they practice checking out at the self-checkout, because that is a way for them to explore the career of, maybe they want to be a person who works at Walmart or a grocery store, or we have some like Dollar General, the Dollar Tree. We have a few little stores like that where we live. So a clerk in a store like that is something that they could consider doing. And that's a way that we let them explore. Some other jobs in the school that we've taken them to explore outside of the classroom. Our students help sell snack in the mornings during the break. Secretarial duties that the secretary in the office will give them. Librarian, they go in and help in the library with some sorting and things like that. We also are very blessed to have our high school located right next door to our city library. So there is an opportunity to go and possibly do some things at the city library. If you are blessed enough to have your older kids located near a campus of an elementary school, I would suggest looking into maybe having them do some exploring in that library, or possibly even like in a pre-K classroom, sorting the toys, sorting manipulatives in kindergarten. Those kind of little jobs would be a very good opportunity for your students if you had that kind of transportation, if it was something you could walk to with a neighboring school. We don't have that opportunity, but that might be something you could consider. That's definitely something we would consider if we had that opportunity when I was in Roanoke. In your community though, just get out, let your kids see what's available. They've got to see it in the community where they live, because one thing that we all know, what they do in the classroom does not automatically generalize to life outside of the classroom for them. That's why they don't need a picture of, when they're little and you're in kindergarten and you're trying to teach them to sit in their desk. They don't need a picture of a kid they don't know sitting in a desk appropriately. You need to take a picture of them sitting in a desk appropriately. They can't generalize. And so the more you can let it be what they're going to see, the more opportunity for it to actually have meaning in their lives. Another benefit of project-based learning is student engagement. I just cannot say enough about how student engagement will skyrocket when you bring project-based learning into your classrooms. Our kids get bored easily. And unfortunately, a lot of times, our babies have been stuck on computers to play, or they've been stuck in front of a video to watch. And it just really grieves me to even think about those things, but we all know it happens and we all know it's the truth. So I'm just going to say it. So when you can give them something that they're interested in, that they can actually do, and they can experience some success doing, they are going to be hooked and they are going to be engaged. And you are going to see a difference in your classroom. Way back at the beginning of this presentation, Joyce talked about who all Education Associates was endorsed by, and I will not quote it correctly. Center for Dropouts. I'm not saying it right, but that is huge because this population of students does have a high dropout rate. School is not a place that they experience success. It's not a place that they find value in, and it's not always a place that they see. Thank you so much, Michelle. National Association for Prevention of Dropouts. That's important. I mean, that's, to me, that says so much, because we don't want these kids dropping out. We need these kids to be completers. We need them to be completers. We need them involved with voc rehab. We need them with a transition coach, and we need them leaving us with a solid plan for how they are going to have meaningful, enriched lives, doing the most they can do independently when they're adults. They deserve that, and they want that. They just don't know how to get it, and that's what we're here for. That's our job. But if we are not making school meaningful to them, then what's going to make them want to stick around for it? Nothing. I'm telling you that project-based learning will make them want to stick around. They will want to come to school. You can look at and these pictures that I'm showing you, by the way, these are not pulled off Google. These are my kids. These are my babies. These are kids that I taught when they were 3 years old, who've gone up through the ranks of Roanoke City Schools with me. Yes, I do have permission to share their pictures. These are kids that I have seen learn so much through the years, but they love going to school now. They're all at the high school now, this whole group that's on this page now, and they're doing so much. They've moved what they were doing at the middle school with the coffee cart over to the high school. Now they've got the Tiger Cafe. We started out small with what we knew. Again, doing coffee, but there's lofty goals over there. They are hoping and working towards it becoming bigger than just a coffee cart and actually becoming a small cafe where they serve food. So I'm so excited about that. They stay in close contact with me. The guy in the red is Coach Snyder, and he went from being a parapro to one of my teachers before I left. He's working on his master's in special ed, and he keeps me, he's the person who teaches project discovery there, and he keeps me updated constantly about what's going on. He knows I always want to hear from these kids, and they have really big goals, and I'm so excited about that. But anyway, let me get back to what I was saying about engagement. Is, it's just been our experience that there's an increase in engagement. One of the things that has been so impressive to me as we've seen our kids get more engaged with project-based learning is kids who have sat in the background for years suddenly find their voice. If you see in the middle picture, in the middle of the picture, the little girl in the blue shirt, and then on the right-hand picture, on the right-hand side, the little girl standing up, those are the same. That's the same. In the middle picture, she's at middle school, and on the right, this is at high school. As she's gotten older and taller, she used to be so scared to talk at school. and so hesitant to say anything. She had some experience with being teased, and she just really struggled with that. She has now become so confident. You see in that picture, she is standing up, and she is, I'm trying to tell which, I think they have the table service box out is what they're doing. I don't have my glasses on. I should have brought them in here with me. I think that's the table service. And you can see that she is leading that group, and she is talking through and leading her peers. That is huge. And that is because of project-based learning. That is where that came from, because that increase in her confidence did not happen with a worksheet. It did not happen playing a game on a computer, and it did not happen watching a video. I want to tell you real quick about those 3 pictures, just because I love to tell you what they're doing. On the left-hand side, that is them showing where they had recently filled out job applications. In the middle, this is one thing that they do really often, is they get volunteers from the community to come in and teach them. Miss Brenda is kind of known in the community for being just this outstanding baker. And so she comes in and gives them cooking lessons. And then on the right, they're working through one of their project discovery boxes. And I'm so afraid I'm going to end up going over my time. I'm so sorry. You get me started talking about these students and what we can do for them, and I don't run out of things to say ever. And finally, I want to talk to you about how we can take project-based learning to the gen ed classroom and what that looks like for us. When our kids master a skill that is an important life skill, why do we not give them the opportunity to share their learning with non-disabled peers? Our kids have things they can teach others. People without disabilities can learn from our kids, and man, what it does for our kids when they get to teach them something. Let me tell you how we do that in Roanoke C Schools. And I keep saying we because I will always be part of Roanoke C Schools. I cut my teeth there as a teacher, I say. I came straight out of college and I never left. I wasn't from that area, from Roanoke City, wasn't from Roanoke, but I went there and fell in love with that little school system, and I stayed there until I retired. But one way we do that is Roanoke has something so unique called the Outdoor Education Center. And in our Outdoor Education Center, we have so many things. Really, that could almost be a whole nother webinar Wednesday. So y'all might just need to have me come back and let me go do some video and show you some things. But one thing is the greenhouse. And when our students go through the greenhouse works box and they master some of those skills, such as repotting a plant, then when they're at the OEC for their class that they go to, that's one of the classes where we do some inclusion for them. They go to the OEC to get some of that opportunity to continue to be with their non-disabled peers. And it's just such a great class for them. They learn so much out there with Coach Pike. That's who runs our OEC. Because they've been through the greenhouse works box and they have mastered some of those skills, they can teach other students during their OEC class when they're in the greenhouse. And you can see, I am so sorry, something's got my nose so irritated. You can see in the top, Bilal and Maria showing how to repot a plant. That's what they're about to show right there. They're getting ready to show how to take those pots out and then how to repot those plants. And you can see the other students standing around them. I mean, what an opportunity for them to be the showcase, not the one standing in the back watching. Project-based learning did that. That's what it does for our kids. I told you earlier that I was on the board of directors at the Learning Center for our Adult Day Center. And just real quick, I want to tell you how I envision that this carries over. So I envision that as these students age out of public school and then they are old enough to go to the day center, as they've gotten this foundation at the school, and our school has a great and my words just left me, y'all. I'm so sorry. Relationship with the Learning Center. These groups that run the Tiger Cafe and the Tiger Bean coffee shop, they partner with the people who attend the Learning Center quite often, and they go on field trips together, and they do a lot. And by the time then, when they're old enough to go out there and they're no longer going to public school, it won't be a strange place to them, and they'll already have friends there. But they will take some of that, they will take those skills with them. And as the president of that board of directors, I have a vision of seeing a lot of this move into that center. I would like to see us be able to get some of these kits out there. You know, that's something, we do a lot of project-based learning at the Learning Center, but it's, again, things that our workers and our teachers out there have to create. And I would really like to see them have the curriculum and the materials that my teachers had at the high school level. Yesterday, one of the things that I heard in the training I was in, she said, are you tired of, how many of you are tired of differentiating? Well, it does it for you. So again, I'm just going to go back in and plug again for Project Discovery. It's all done for you. I mean, it's there. And we're spending all this time trying to create these opportunities for our students. And Project Discovery puts it in a box and wraps it up with a bow for you. And we all need this. So if you don't have something like that, I want you to go back to your district and say, you have got to get this for me. Our kids need it and they deserve it, because they do. Okay, this is the last picture that I'm going to show you. And so these are our kids the first year we did the Tiger Bean. And one of the things that we did, we had written a letter to, we had a new Dollar General opening in our area, and I had written a letter as the director, basically begging for money. I'm not above asking anybody to give anything if it's to those kids. I will ask anybody for money when it comes to those kids. And so I had asked for money, and they said, sure, you know, we'll give a gift card. But again, small town. And the manager, a great guy, he called me and he said, hey, we're having a ribbon cutting. And I'd love for you to bring those kids to come to that ribbon cutting and let me give them that card. And I said, we'll be there. And so we loaded up on that bus and we went. Now, that's not what this is. I take a long time to get around sometimes. And so we went and we did all that. Well, when we got there and we did it, the people on the right are some people from the Chamber of Commerce in our city. They'd never heard of the Tiger Bean, didn't have any idea what the Tiger Bean was, but they were amazed. And they were so impressed with our kids. And they were so excited for our kids. So we go back to school, we go on with everything. And I get a phone call from the mayor and the director of our Chamber of Commerce saying that they would like to offer us an honorary membership into our Chamber of Commerce as a new business. So this was our ribbon cutting for our new business. And so now on their little coffee cart, and I have a million pictures I could have shown you, but I didn't have time for that. They have a little Chamber of Commerce sticker that they have on their coffee cart because they are members of the Chamber of Commerce for Randolph County. And oh my gosh, I don't even have a great way to wrap all this up except just to tell you that project-based learning changed those kids in that picture's lives, because it made school exciting again for them, and it made them want to come to school. And it made those teachers on the left over there, it changed their lives too, because it made them excited about teaching those kids again.
Oh my goodness, Lynn. That was I shouldn't have had the mute off, because then you would have heard me hooting and hollering. The Chamber of Commerce. Oh my gosh, that is so great.
And I would have loved to show y'all all the, hey, we were featured on a news channel from Birmingham, came and did a news special on us. It was great.
That is real. And I love the way you said it changed not only the kids' lives, but all of the
Listen, it
teachers and
changed the culture of that school. Really and truly, I'm telling you, it has changed the whole culture of that school.
Mhm. Oh my goodness, that just put the hair back
I
back on
know,
my neck,
I
just going
know.
on up. That's just amazing. And I loved, you said something real quick in there. You said you increased the confidence in that young girl, and it
Mhm.
didn't happen from a worksheet. It didn't happen from a
Oh,
video. It didn't have. It happened because she was doing and really owning the job.
oh
It
yeah,
was her job, and so that gave her confidence and just an amazing. That's how you build. I mean, that child will, as she becomes a young woman and goes on off, could have the opportunity to bring that confidence into a real work environment, live her best version of her life, right? Which is the
yes.
most important thing.
And I know, I just want to say this. If anybody listening that joined us today has questions about the student-based business, I would love to help you. I mean, there are so many things I didn't tell you, like how we started to earn money, what we do with that money, how those kids have learned once a month they get to go to Walmart and they purchase something that they want within an amount of money because that's money they've earned working. So they spend it because that's what we all get to do.
Right.
We go to work, we make money, we spend it.
Hmm.
You see, we have on our t-shirts in this picture. We sold t-shirts. I mean, there's so many things we did that I didn't have time to tell you about today.
Ah, no, that was really moving. And um, in the beginning too, you were talking, we had one question around the funding and curriculum, and you kind of answered it, but I'm going to circle back to it because in the beginning you're saying you really didn't have any funding and you had to kind of be creative and find things, and then after you met Gary, which was really kind of neat, that you were able to write the grant. Was it easier to write the grant because it was directly related to curriculum?
Yeah.
Is
At
that
that time, Alabama was offering a specific transition grant, and I wrote it specific to purchasing
mhm,
Project Discovery.
mhm, yeah,
And I actually wrote it right before I left. I had a $30,000 order with Project Discovery again that I left them with. The principal called me like 5 days before I left, and he said, "What in the world have you sent to this school? This man just unloaded a whole pallet."
yeah.
I said, "That's for your Tiger Cafe. Put it over there."
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, but that's because I geared it to that. It was specific to transition, and it was an Alabama did a transition grant those 2 years I was able to get.
And I've heard from other people now, like in this 2022, 2021, and the whole pandemic funding and everything else, that they were able to put their request, because that money is still floating out there, all those
Right.
ESSER funds.
Oh,
They,
yeah.
they were able to put their request out for that money because it's a one-time purchase. When you buy the kit, you have the
Yes, and
kit,
then you
you
just
have
have to
all the pieces.
replenish all that little stuff. And yesterday we brainstormed a million ways you could do that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, that's a really key thing for the folks
Mhm.
who are listening. If you've got questions, just you've got Lynn's contact information in front of you, and Michelle and I will put ours back up in a minute, but we can help you figure out how to put it together, and because it is a full curriculum that does all the evidence-based practice components, and it's got all of the alignments to standards that you're going to need to
Yeah,
justify it as a curriculum. And then that added bonus that it's a one-time purchase, not an every year
right. And it's,
subscription. Yeah.
well, like, this is just an example. And I didn't even get to this. I mean, I knew I would have so much more than I knew I would have more than we needed. One, you can come up if like say, like, okay, coffee's not your thing. I probably went towards coffee because I'm obsessed with coffee. That's probably why I started with coffee,
Okay.
because selfishly I wanted to go over there every Friday and have them make me a cup of coffee.
Sure.
But you do the small engine kit and you get some kids really good at it, and all of a sudden you start a small engine repair and you're fixing all the teachers' weed eaters when they tear up.
Oh,
There's
boy.
a there's a there's
Right.
a student business for you.
There
There's
you
a
go.
student enterprise. I
Absolutely.
mean, and that there are so many student enterprises that can grow directly out of the Project Discovery kits.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much so. And we have heard them through the years. Well, thank you so much. Michelle, do you have any other questions? I know we're getting close on time here.
No other questions for now. I mean, I know that there are some individual ones that we don't have time to answer, but if you want to email us, you can email me. Joyce will put the slide back up with my info, or you can just email info@educationassociates.com and we'll get back to you. But I did want to let everybody know that we do send out the link to this recording. So you will be able to access that. You should get an email this Friday that has the information and everything. So you should just be able to click and you'll have access to the recording and all of that. So I did want to let you all know that. And you can also view it on our Webinar Wednesday page on our website. So we have all of our past Webinar Wednesdays there.
Exactly. So if you go on our educationassociates.com, there's a button there called resources, and that's where you really can pick up just about anything that you might need. So there's um, the webinar Wednesdays all recorded. Like I think there's 22 of them now.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that, because we really did start
Yeah.
them from quite a while ago. There's also our newsletter, which comes out monthly, and they'll take like the information that Lynn just presented and they'll do a little bit of a synopsis. This was Miss Hubbard George from Florence, South Carolina, and we just did a little bit of a recap. So it's another great thing you could share with your colleagues and with your administration, and just great way to kind of. So we'll do a little synopsis of what Lynn was able to talk with us about.
Yeah, and you
Um,
guys can, sorry, Joyce, I just
Go
want to
ahead.
jump in. You guys can, at the very bottom, if you go to
Thank you.
educationassociates.com, at the very, very bottom of each page, there is a place to sign up for our newsletter. So I encourage you to go sign up, because then you'll never miss a thing. You'll never miss any information from one of these. Sorry,
It's
Joyce.
not a sales pitch and they're not going to sell your name to
Right.
anybody, but it's just a really good informational piece. And then there's ways that you can get like a
Exactly.
little preview packet so you can hear the audio, you can see the videos and kind of get a little bit of a sense of it yourself. And there's so much information on the website here, just how to find some additional funding. So that's got a grid with all of the different types of funding sources that are available and how the project discovery or achieve life skills might align to it. And if you still haven't found your answers yet, you can go on the resources section and look for Zoom with us. And that's where you'll get a one-on-one Zoom with Michelle or somebody else from the team, and they'll answer your questions. And we've had a lot of directors, Michelle, that will have their team sit with us so that it's 3 4 8 people, whatever it happens to be, and they're sitting there and we can go through all the materials and share all of the resources that are available, and they can ask their questions, and it's a great thing for a team meeting for doing that kind of a thing. So lots of
Yes,
resources there under
absolutely.
resources.
Joyce, can I jump in for a second?
Mm-hmm.
Someone had asked if I have an example of a letter I send to businesses asking for donations. If I can still access my old email account, I probably do.
Okay, great.
So if she will send, I think it's
There's
Ann.
Lynn M. Perry at gmail.com.
If
Right
she will
there.
send me an email about that, I will look and see if I can find a copy of a letter that I've sent.
Perfect. Perfect. And because it's really important in working with the Chamber of Commerce, as you said. I mean, you just have to kind of get out there and do. And when you have that little bit of, here we've done, this coffee cart, or we've done this project, and we know we can do more because we've got these other resources available to us. The folks who are in the Chamber of Commerce, those are parents, aunts, uncles,
Well, and they're business
grandparents.
leaders.
They're business leaders, but they're also related to your kids. So
Right.
there's 6 degrees of separation, I guarantee.
Exactly. I didn't tell this part, but Roanoke is a small town, so they still have
Okay.
a lot of those old clubs like Magazine Club, Silhouette Club, Pilot Club, Lions Club, all of those.
Uh-huh.
I went and talked to everybody that would let me come talk to them.
There you go.
Guess what I got when I left? Money.
Yeah.
They made donations.
Yeah, because they're looking for good
Yeah.
causes that they
They
can
want to support local kids.
Right.
They just need
Exactly.
somebody to come and tell them what the kids are doing. Well, I'll go tell them.
Sure. That's the way to do it. That is, like CEO mentality right there, Lynn. That's how you get it done. That's great. So we just want to thank everybody who spent a few extra minutes with us here today. We appreciate you all. We know how busy you are. Happy back to school season. And just thanks. Michelle, anything you want to add?
No, we just love seeing you guys here again. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next month. First
Absolutely.
Wednesday of every month at 2 p.m. Eastern.
There you go.
So we'll see you there.
Thanks
Thanks
so much,
again.
everybody.
We
Bye,
appreciate
guys.
it. Okay. Bye-bye.